On this episode,
my family had a very critical experience with the problem, and it touched us deeply when I was in Congress. And the family member who became addicted to OxyContin when it was a prescription pill epidemic. And here I am, a sitting member of Congress. It's happening in my household, in my family. Wait, shouldn't I be immune?
from the coveted corner booth in a little bar in the center of the Coachella Valley Universe, welcome to another big conversation with Patrick Evans and Randy Florence. Gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Howard. Yes, we are here, back at Skip Paige's Little Bar, the center of the Coachella Valley Universe. All the more so because it's festival season. Skip's been very busy.
He has been, but we saw him. He was actually made an appearance.
Yeah, taking a little breather between big concerts. I'm Patrick Evans, and I'm here with my co-host Randy Florence, and we are back for another big conversation at Little Bar. How are you, pal?
Thank you. It's the first time you haven't put like quotation marks around co-host.
Oh, I think they're implicit at this point.
After 65 episodes, people just assume.
I mean, it does say now hiring on our website.
Yes.
People wonder what that position is.
We have another guest today who's finding out that she's being actually considered as co-host going forward.
Well, she has her own podcast.
Yes.
We should waste no time in introducing our guest today. Mary Bono, former Congressman, the Honorable Mary Bono.
Esteemed.
And esteemed, absolutely.
Can you take a bow when you say that, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Or curtsy.
Should I not look at you directly in the eyes? Is that?
Just touch my white glove.
We're so delighted to have you. I know that you are frequently back in the Valley, but you call Durango, Colorado home now, correct?
I do. And what's great is when I get to come here, I am a tourist. I sit by the pool. I shop. I do all the things, when Sonny and I first moved out here in the early 80s that we did before we fell in love with living here. I was playing tennis and all of these wonderful things, and that's what I do again.
Well, let's jump in right there. How did you and Sonny meet? I know the story's probably been told a million times, but I want to hear the story.
Okay, I had just graduated from the University of Southern California, or my husband calls us University of Spoiled Children, which is not fair, but I had just graduated the day before, and a girlfriend of mine said, hey, let's go out to celebrate. And we walked into Bono restaurant. Believe it or not, she had like a coupon, a 2-for-1 dessert coupon or something. So we walked in, and I had on that totally 80s outfit, which was horrendously ugly when you look back on it. And Sonny was there with his manager and came over and sat down in the booth next to us and struck up a conversation. And by the end of the night, I said, I'm not going to chase this guy. And we exchanged phone numbers, but the next day I said to myself, I'm not calling him. And he said for me to call him at 3. I didn't call him at 3:10. He called me and asked me why I hadn't called.
Wow.
And it was really, because I'm not a moron. I'm not going to play this like star thing game. But that's how we met. I'm telling you, the right bar and the ugliest, most hideous 80s pumps.
It worked out.
Has a 2-for-1 coupon
2-for-1
ever
coupon for
amounted
desserts.
to more?
I'm a supporter of media. I met my wife at a bar restaurant. And
I'm shocked, Patrick.
I know, because I so rarely frequent those kinds of places.
You were delivering a subpoena or something?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I was there delivering service. That was it. You're now served. So, all right, you have this phone call, and tell us what the next step was. He obviously had to step up and ask you out. Did he take you back to his restaurant?
No, he took me to sushi somewhere in West Hollywood. And what was amazing is because I think I was really a square, to use the term, back then. And I'm a brand new college graduate from USC, and I'm thinking the world is my oyster.
Art history major, so.
Yes, thank you. Make sure you curtsy when you say that. The esteemed art history career.
And touch your glove.
But he decided the best thing to do was sort of date and take me out old-fashioned and woo me and wine and dine. And the funniest thing is I remember when I told my parents I was dating Sonny, my dad said, good God, Mary, be careful. And then I told Sonny that my dad had said that, and so Sonny said, well, and they lived in North Carolina at the time, Asheville, North Carolina. Sonny said, that's not okay. So Sonny said, let's fly to Asheville. I want to meet your parents. And my dad and Sonny became best of friends.
He was worried because Sonny was Italian.
Italian and just a wee bit older than I was.
I have a hard time getting through the podcast, but go ahead, Patrick.
I'm glad you're still here, Randy.
Hi, Randy.
I'm just future Italian conversations. I got to make sure we put him into every episode.
That's right. It's important.
I'm lost.
I am too now. So the courtship, I mean, like that takes a turn when he says, let's just fly across the country and meet your parents.
Right. Yeah, they just really liked one another, had a lot of respect for each other. My dad even campaigned. I don't know if you remember, you weren't here in the desert when Sonny had run for Senate. But my dad campaigned with him, traveled with him. So they were just great friends, which was, I mean, my dad was an amazing man. Weirdly, he would have been 100 years old last week.
Your dad was a physician, correct?
He was a teaching physician at USC.
And your mom was a chemist.
That's right. Wow, you don't even have notes in front of you. People need to know that, Patrick. You are all there. No notes. There are no notes here.
And I'm only a couple of beers in, so I get sharper as I go along.
More handsome, too.
I'll be back in about a half an hour. I'm just going to leave you two alone.
No.
She likes Italian men, so it's okay, Randy. It's all right.
My last name is Florence.
Yes.
It's
There
not
you go.
Italian, but
Florence? Oh. Well, Florence. I mean, isn't Florence? And
I tried that for about 60 years until we found out I was Irish.
that's such an Irish name. You're right, Florence. Oh, Florence.
Oh, Florence.
Florence.
I met Sonny before I moved to the desert. Sonny was I think he was campaigning, but he was on a speaking tour, and he came to where I was working, Roanoke, Virginia, and I actually got to introduce him.
You're kidding.
No.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And so that was really exciting for me because I grew up watching the Sonny and
Sonny and Cher show.
Yeah, I grew
you
up.
can mention that.
Yeah. And it was, not...
You're
It
dating
was-
yourself, but
I know,
you're
yeah.
a billion years old. But I'm glad you like the show.
I love the show. It was terrific. But it was really fascinating to meet Sonny and see him in such a different light as a politician. And, he was, by all accounts, a great mayor. I mean, he was a visionary with the film festival. So,
Yeah.
fascinating man.
He was. He was definitely the accidental politician. I don't think that he would have stayed in Congress much longer. I think he was already disenchanted with it. Felt that he was limited in his artistic capabilities and what he wanted to do. But as you know, the story goes that he was so fed up with bureaucracy in the city of Palm Springs that when we built the restaurant, we couldn't have a sign, we couldn't remodel our house. And so Sonny just thought one day, this is great, I'll run for mayor and fire everybody. The funny thing was he had never been registered to vote before that. It's like, this might have been a good first step, like register then announce. But again, the rest is history. And God, those were fun days to think back then on his campaigns. And what was so neat about Sonny, a lot of things, but he would be at a town hall meeting, if you would, or a, I don't know what they're called back then, just a big meeting at our restaurant with 100 people, and people would want to pick fights with him, and he would whisper under his breath to me, just watch this, because he knew he could convert people by his personality and his charming way and his unassuming way, and he did it time after time after time. So we need more people like him in office now.
We do.
To tell you the truth.
That was one thing that struck me about Sonny when I was a little starstruck anyway, but I got to introduce him, but I got to go backstage and meet him first, and he was, as you say, very unassuming, but big charisma. Like immediately, you just got a very warm feeling. Like Sonny had the ability to make you feel like you were the most important person in the room.
Patrick, one of the neat things about Sonny, and John knows this, I'm sorry, John, the engineer, who's my engineer and our good friend, when I get nervous, my nose runs, my nose is running. So Patrick, it's you.
It's not, it's Randy. Randy's making us all nervous.
No, but one thing about Sonny is he had been on top of the world, and he had crashed and burned more than once. And he knew that the people, when you're on top of the world, you'll meet again going down or coming back up. So he had really, I think, done away with his ego. He learned that this is a fleeting moment and that people and relationships are really important. And I think that was so refreshing. to see and to watch. And I think that he had a new lease on life when we moved out here and had the family, and we just became normal people. Again, playing tennis and, walking Palm Canyon and eating at El Mirasol and all of these things that were just normal. So, anyway.
At what point, obviously, you're involved in politics when you're a politician's spouse.
Yep.
Did you ever imagine going on and serving?
Truthfully, I had thought maybe one day I would try something like school board or a local office where I could be a mother and do that, because I had learned the playbook on how to campaign. We knew the community so well. We knew the problems. We knew the people. I thought maybe one day down the road there would be something, but never in my life did I think I would want to be a politician. Ever. Although I had been registered to vote and had voted.
So you're halfway there.
That's a good start.
Yeah. But never had I thought, because I remember when Sonny died, I told a few people, I can't be a member of Congress because I don't want to tell people what to do. And a lot of people are saying that's what's perfect about you, because you don't want to tell people what to do. And that was refreshing, because I really had to inventory if I could do the job after he died. And if you remember, again, you weren't here at the time, but I had such amazing support. President Ford, Betty Ford, other people came out, Bob Dole, Jack Kemp, you name it. People who believed in me or knew that as a widow I could probably win the seat. But I really had to wonder, could I do the job? And the greatest influence for me was my mom, the chemist, who had, she had raised 4 kids and had her job. And it wasn't that she had the job that encouraged me to do it. It was that she said to me, if you don't do it, you'll forever kick yourself. That I think so often women are afraid to step up and take the reins. But if you're offered them, which truly I was offered, this is my seat to lose, and to be afraid to do it, my mom was saying, you'd kick yourself forever. The other one was my grandmother, who was widowed during the Depression with 6 young kids and had to figure out how to put food on the table and raise her kids. And she did, and so that was also my, sort of my influence on why to do it.
You ended up 7 terms in Congress?
Yes. Yeah.
Were there, as you look back on it now, were there similarities in how you were as a politician and Sonny?
No. No. Sonny had God-given talent, and he knew how to read a crowd and read a room. And I felt that I had to really work hard to overcome, first of all, being a woman, which is not unusual for women to say, especially back then. There were only maybe 50 members of Congress that were women at the time out of 435. So I really did my homework and worked hard and read the briefing papers and attended all the hearings. And ironically, I think even now I've been out for 13 years, 11 years. Who knows? Time has flown. But I think that served me well. I think I was known for doing my homework and paying attention, but no, Sonny was definitely by the seat of the pants kind of guy, but he had strong instincts and a strong belief in the government and what things should be right and what things should be wrong.
How did those conversations go with you two? Were they sitting around the table discussing these things?
To some degree. What was interesting was, so I'd campaigned with him when he ran for mayor, when he ran for the Senate, and then for the House. So as a partner in that. But then when he was elected to the House, spouses, either you're pretty much pushed out of the picture or else you're a meddling spouse that no staff wants to have around. So the change was more having gone from being a part of the press and the press reactions and the press stories to having no idea what was really going on. And this is before Google, Google alerts and everything. It's like they would fax us press clips, and I'd go, holy cow, what happened? So it was a big transition, but the campaigning part was invaluable for me, and we loved it. Look, when Sonny ran for mayor, and I feel like I'm teaching youngins a story here, but when he ran for mayor, he had the old guard against him. He had Frank Bogart was against him, and there were a bunch of other city councilmen who didn't like him. And one day, Kim Waltrip and I know Kim's a great mutual friend of all of ours, Kim and I was very pregnant, so Kim and I Well, she was walking down Palm Canyon. I was waddling down Palm Canyon because I was still pregnant. We put up 50 signs in 50 stores that said Sonny Bono for mayor in a matter of hours. And that's when the town went, uh-oh, this guy's serious. This is the kind of support that he has. And I have no idea why I'm telling you that story, but it was fun.
I love that story. The visual of you two walking down the street doing that.
Yeah, I always tell Kim, that'd be a fun film for her to make. Because, and it wouldn't even have to necessarily have Sonny, but it'd have to do with the naysayers saying, no, you can't. You know, you're an outsider, you're the underdog. And then one day, two women walk the street. Well, waddle the street in my case.
That's a different kind of movie now.
Episode 2.
I was trying to dial that real though went back in. But no, and that was the beginning of people saying, wow, he has support, and it's serious support.
Could it happen again? Could a Sonny Bono come into Palm Springs and...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And there are a lot, Sonny was like, and I think that he had been the business owner. He had already sort of launched the film festival concept through the Chamber of Commerce because of a mutual friend, Bobby Patmore, brought him into the Chamber of Commerce. We had a tennis tournament at our old racket club. We raised a whopping $10,000, which back then was good money. And we created like the logo for the film festival. And so he had some roots there. And I think that's what's important. People need to know. You need to show that you're part of the community and that you care about the community. I don't think just because you're, whatever celebrity, that you can just suddenly run and win. Of course you can. Right. But I don't think it's as long-lived as somebody who really cares about the community and is involved. So yes, are they better politicians? I would say some yes and some no. It's hard work.
Yeah.
And so I served with a number of, let's say, celebrities. Steve Largent played with Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, yeah.
I played with Tom Osborne, who is, if you know Tom, a basketball coach, I believe, for Nebraska, very esteemed. Sorry, we have an inside joke about esteemed listeners. But and they were kind of like 2 years in, like, we're done with this. This is a lot of work. And we're not making as big a difference as we would like. So it takes that. You need somebody who's willing to get in, do the hard work, pay the dues, and be very serious about what they're doing. And I'm looking at you, Patrick. When I run your campaign, you're going to have to actually show up and roll up those sleeves and take notes.
That's how I prepare meticulously for every interview. You see all the notes that I made. Randy has got the notes. Let's talk about the film festival for a moment.
Yeah.
Because I know that Sonny had a big vision for that. Would he be impressed with where the film festival is today?
Oh, absolutely. I think beyond his wildest dreams. But I think he would have moved on to something else by now.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
I think he would have built it and seen it, and then he would say, let's solve the next problem.
Well, you watched a lot of the growth. I mean, you were here for the nascent years of the film festival. And through
where we struggled.
Yeah.
Struggled. Yeah, we had competition. We had naysayers, and that's one thing Sonny was really good at, was overcoming the naysayers. And that's sort of one of the ways I identify, say what genius is the ability to overcome people who tell you can't do it. The ability to stick with it and say, oh, really? Watch this. And, a lot of people in the beginning, there was a year, if you remember, in your history books, see we're here, but at the last minute, all the celebrities pulled out and decided not to come over controversy over the then executive director and just leadership direction that had gone sideways. But we were left holding the bag. But look, Sonny was right. In the beginning, he said the Palm Springs Film Festival should rival Cannes, or it should beat Sundance. And we flew to Deauville, France. That's a whole nother story. But he really believed that Palm Springs should be as big as the Riviera for a getaway. And look, say what you will, I believe that the film festival was the beginning of the trend that we see now in Palm Springs. I believe the film festival helped create the Madison Club and Bighorn and all of these country clubs, because I think Sonny removed the tarnish that had been on Palm Springs for a little while there.
Well, it's certainly brought back a renewed celebrity like the old days when Sinatra lived around the corner.
Yeah.
It was the celebrity hangout. And then for a long while, it kind of languished without that. And the film festival helped restore that image that this is where the celebrities come and hang out. And they do.
Yep. But Patrick, what's funny? early on, there were the days. It was sort of sunny, and Kirk Douglas and Frank Sinatra, and they sort of took turns on who was performing at things. We had this big Americana ball, which benefited the Palm Springs Senior Center. And it was sort of the Palm Springs event of the year to be at. And in any event, I remember, and I kick myself for this, it's like I used to say, but remember, I'm in my 20s, right? I was just a kid. And I used to say to myself, oh my God, I have to sit through Frank Sinatra again tonight. It's like, oh, Frank's performing again tonight.
How many times can I stomach my way, for God's sake?
And now I wouldn't give for those opportunities again. But back then it was like, okay, it's Frank's turn tonight, or it's Kirk's turn tonight, or Bob Hope, all these great people. And but it was a magical, absolutely magical time.
You caught kind of the tail end of that golden era, but again, we've kind of ushered in a different type of golden era.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's wonderful. And again, I love to vacation here and to see what it's become. But I mean, it was great to see Skip today. Oh my God, I am so cool because I know Skip Paige, right? I tell everybody younger than 40, I know Skip Paige. I can hook you up with Coachella or Stagecoach tickets. Like, I don't mean it, but I say it.
You could say it.
But oh my God, festivals out here, and what this has become, it is absolutely magical. And yeah.
What are the biggest differences today from the Palm Springs that you walked into? Besides size and
besides
people
traffic. Besides the traffic is the same and the heat's about the same. Well, honestly, I think the first thing that comes to mind is that we used to have to close everything down in the summers. It was so hot that restaurants would close. I mean, Las Casuelas would stay open, but a lot of restaurants would just close. Shops would close. It was very seasonal, and that was difficult when we had the restaurant. But when you do have great employees and you want to keep them year-round, but you go from doing 500 dinners in January to 25 in August, how do you balance that? How do you keep the workforce, the employees that you love so much? And it was a challenge. So I think that and the growth, I mean, the positive growth. And, growth is funny when you get older. It's like, oh, I can't believe it's not the way it was when I was a kid and all this stuff, and you lament that it has changed. But I think the growth has been wonderful out here. Downtown Palm Springs is special. I mean, the whole valley is special. Pick your place. Pick Skip's Little Bar. So I don't know. I think the people are the same. I know the meteorologist has been forever.
Weather hasn't changed.
Weather hasn't changed. But Patrick's job. Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
It's so hard. What's
a
today?
Quick conversation,
it's sunny.
but go ahead.
Yeah, today's weather is sunny and hot.
Oh, there's dirt. There's dirt today.
I couldn't wait to see him today to say, hey, what's up with this sand? And,
We got it, yeah.
I couldn't wait to see you.
Well, I always explain to people, and I get that rap a lot. Oh, you do weather in Palm Springs. Oh, it's sunny and warm. It's sunny and hot. But I'll tell you the truth. And you grew up in Ohio, right?
I grew up in South Pasadena, but I was born in Ohio.
Born in Ohio. All right. Well, you can be in a lot of different places in this world, like Cleveland. It can be 70 one day and 30 the next. And that's a 40-degree swing. Anybody can see that coming. I don't care what kind of meteorologist you are.
Really?
100 degrees versus 101, that's a 1 degree, very small difference. And it takes an extremely skilled meteorologist to figure out that 1 degree, and that's why I'm here. This is the toughest job in America. She's just looking at it.
It just got dead silent.
I can't believe he just said that.
I'm wondering, when you go from 100 to 101 and you're turning to the blue screen or green screen, is that a big movement of your arm?
It is. It's giant.
It's from here to here.
You have to do it with flourish.
No, but look, where I live now, I live at 9,000 feet in the mountains of Colorado, and weather is incredibly important to us there. Is it going to snow a foot or 2 feet, 5 feet, or what's going to happen?
Well, we were just talking with your husband, who is a naval aviator, was an admiral, retired as an admiral, and was an astronaut.
Yeah, he's kind of an overachiever.
This guy really needs some ambition in his life. But we were talking, obviously, aviators, whether people talk about the weather, but aviators fly through it and live in it. So it's really important.
It's life or death to them, absolutely. And what's funny about him, Patrick, too, is so he, flew off of aircraft carriers, and one of the things we all usually achieve for like the number to say, oh, I retired at 60 or I, did whatever that hits a great round number. He flew 99. He landed 99 times at aircraft carrier at night. Because that's supposed to be the most frightening thing to go through is landing a plane on a moving aircraft carrier at night. And it's like he did it 99 times. It's like, you don't want to do the 100th? He goes, absolutely not. It's like, okay, I guess it was scary.
It's like putting something down on a postage stamp out in the middle of the ocean. I mean,
that's moving and dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's amazing. He's super cool. It's quite an honor to be with him and to get to see the life that he lives. When he's on Zoom calls, like I'm on Zoom call with John McMullen, right? My good Steve's on with like Russia, talking to these cosmonauts at 4 a.m, and I'm hearing, it's kind of, that's pretty cool. I mean, Zoom works to, obviously it's changed since Ukraine, but prior to that, they were all talking, the cosmonauts and our astronauts, and talking about, manned space exploration and all these sort of shared goals.
And Mary's like, hello, John, as they move into.
Not a slight. You could
hi,
be,
John.
In your day, you could have been a cosmonaut, John. Don't feel bad about that. You talked to John because you have a podcast of your own called Sagely Speaking.
That's right. And I brought you hats.
We do have hats.
And I'm waiting for
Thank
my
you.
big conversations at Skip's Little Bar merch.
But you're very focused in your Sagely Speaking podcast because you have picked an issue and it's a really, really important issue. So tell us a little bit about how you approached it and what got you into it.
Well, first of all, when I forget the order, with Kim and John, or how it came to be, they were convincing me, because I'm going, yeah, the world needs another podcast. Just what the world needs. The 10 trillionth podcast. But Kim convinced me, let's try this, let's do it, you'll be great. And it was a natural that we went into the fentanyl and opioid epidemic, because I run a nonprofit that's in that space. It's where my passion is. And we all thought that it would last 3 months. We would have 3 months worth of guests who would talk about this. And then we would move on to women's empowerment, women's leadership, election, which, by the way, you'd think you'd have a lot to talk about there. But we have guests on the show lined up until the end of November. And now we're having publicists reach out to us, wanting to put more and more guests on about this topic. So I know the material is there. I don't know if the listenership will follow for that long. It's like, how long do we want to hear about fentanyl and opioids?
It all started right here in this bar.
That's right.
With Kim. When the day that she was on the show.
Wait, this is a conspiracy.
It is. And we talked about it that day, about doing a podcast. And then she reached out to you, and then we had our conversation.
And Randy and I both volunteered, and she said no.
And she asked John, do you know anybody besides Patrick and Randy?
Please. We'd like some talent on this podcast. So
what I love is Randy will, I hear her chime in with Kim and say, Mary's sound sucked. And then John will tell me, yes, move your microphone closer. It's like, I don't know how to do this, but I'll keep trying. But thank you for weighing in on all things that, as Mary learns how to podcast. I'll tell you this, Patrick, and you know this because you've been interviewed enough and you've been the interviewer enough. It's a whole change for me. And to actually have to listen and come up with look, in Congress, I had to do that. Most members of Congress don't. They have a script. And it'll give you 10 or 20 questions to answer that your staff or the committee staff has given to you. And by the way, the past 5 congressmen before you've asked the same question, but it's okay, you can ask it again because now you're asking that question. So I would always try to listen and ask a question from what I was hearing in the dialogue. And I try to do that with a podcast, but it's really hard, Patrick. It's hard.
It is hard.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important. The one thing I learned by doing Eye on the Desert and the other interviews is if you listen to your interviewee, you don't need a set of questions necessarily before. It's good to have some lined up, but the conversation will stem from what the person is saying. Just really focus on what the person is saying. So,
what?
I know, you've made a list of questions.
I was reading my notes. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
No, it's true. I try to do that, but every once in a while, they say so much over and over and over, and then there's on to the 6th thing before they take a breath, and you're going, I had a question 5 minutes ago.
Exactly, it goes right by. Didn't you just have Emmett Smith on your podcast?
I did. Kim and John and I had Emmett Smith on. Yep. It was fun. they gave me a set of questions to ask, which was cool, but...
Emmett's people?
Emmett's people. I don't have people. Oh, I have John and Kim, but Emmett has people. And Emmett's people gave me the list. The hard thing is we had a little glitch with bandwidth. And so I couldn't, he would freeze, but apparently he was still talking and it's still recording on his computer, my computer, but I'm hearing nothing.
That makes it a lot harder.
It's a lot harder to ask a question that matters. I mean, I should have got Emma's how's the weather?
That's right.
Because I didn't hear a thing he was saying.
Well, let's go back to the genesis of Sagely Speaking.
Okay.
Mothers Against Prescription Drug Abuse, your organization. What was the genesis?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for being an ambassador for us. We're honored to have you.
Thank you.
And Patrick, you should be one too, but just saying. Just volunteered you.
Sound like voluntold.
Voluntold, yes. The genesis was that my family had a very critical experience with the problem, and it touched us deeply when I was in Congress. And the family member who became addicted to OxyContin when it was a prescription pill epidemic. And here I'm a sitting member of Congress. It's happening in my household, in my family. Wait, shouldn't I be immune? And shouldn't I be above the law? I'm just kidding, if you know what I mean. But in any event, so we talked about it publicly because kids back then that didn't want to do the illicit street drugs thought it was safer to party with pills that came out of a little brown bottle because they were safe, right? Because the pharmaceutical company has made them and they're safe. And little did they know how addictive they were. And that what bothered me the most was not necessarily the drug issue itself is hard as a parent, right? How do you keep your kids safe from drug abuse and all of that? But what bothered me the most is there are about 15 federal agencies with a role in protecting the public from the diversion of drugs. The fact, yes, there's a place for opioids in America. We all have pain. Sometimes we need them. But why are 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds getting their hands on these controlled substances? What is wrong? We had an FDA, a DEA, we have National Institutes of Drug Abuse, we have all these agencies, yet kids are dying. And so as a member of Congress, the oversight role you have is you're not doing your jobs. I recognize that people are in their last stages of life and they need palliative care, they need their opioids. Got it. That's awesome. But why is this 15-year-old doing drugs? Why is he using OxyContin? Which, by the way, the natural, line of that would have been OxyContin to heroin. So that's why I got involved. And so fighting the pharmaceutical companies who were prescribing the opioids way back when, and just trying to raise the issue. People were dying. Kids were dying.
How much was it being discussed in Congress at that time, or was it just you speaking up? It
was me and a congressman from Kentucky. So Appalachia was really hard hit, too, with it. So he was, and we bonded together and formed the first ever prescription drug abuse caucus in the Congress. But the truth is, and I feel it's so awesome to not run for office ever again because I can say what I honestly feel. The truth was, every time we would raise the issue, pharmaceutical companies, and Purdue Pharma in particular, would be right behind us, disputing everything we were saying and saying we were wrong, and proving. And this is actually fact. It's in the opioid papers. You can find them at Stanford University. That I was actually threatened by Representative Purdue. Not with a head like a horse head in my bed, but with political retribution if I continued to talk about the issue. So thanks to Karen Devine, who is just another treasure in the desert. She had seen my story, and then she had done a couple stories with other mothers in the desert who had lost children to the same thing. So she connected us all, and out of that, Mothers Against Prescription Drug Abuse was born.
Well, it's a great organization, and it's so important. I have 2 teenagers, and, their mom and I talk about this all the time.
But you talk about it with the teenagers.
Yeah, we do. It's a weird conversation to have with your kids.
It is.
And it's easier to have with our 19-year-old who's at UC Santa Barbara. because there was a natural kind of look. You're going away from home. You're going to be exposed to a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's tougher with the 15-year-old because first of all, they just roll their eyes and like whatever. But like it's you've got to make that connection with the kid. That no, this is a really important conversation, and I'm not kidding around. We're not having fun about this. So, but it's
it's a hard conversation.
It is,
but it's so important. And Randy, I don't know how old you are, but
67.
Okay, I'm 62, so we're contemporaries. But when we were kids, the talk was something else, right? And that talk was difficult to have too. And of course, we're talking about the birds and the bees talks. But this one shouldn't be hard because this is not any longer a conversation about, should you have recreational drugs? Because the conversation now is those recreational drugs can kill you with fentanyl and tranq. And so it's a whole different life-saving conversation. And I will say this about my podcast, and I didn't tell John this yet, but, I said it on the show, so hopefully you listened and heard me. But another mother reached out to me and said, I ordered a bunch of NARCAN because I have grandchildren who are in college. And I know they're not going to use, but I want them to carry because they might be in the position to save another life.
Wow.
And so that's when you go, and this is the second time this has happened, and it's like, maybe that makes a difference. So even if they're not using, the naloxone or NARCAN, which is the opioid overdose reversal medication, which is easy to administer, and you can't hurt anybody with it.
Oh, no, we've ordered it.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I worry about a lot of college kids who are not partiers, and our kid's not. But maybe she wants to stay up later and study longer, and she's looking for Adderall or something like that,
which is laced.
Yeah. And this is the issue. It's not necessarily just the kids who might party or use it recreationally, but it's like somebody who thinks that they're doing something semi good for themselves.
Yes, because they're good kids.
They're good kids,
right.
but so yeah, absolutely. NARCAN's really an important tool.
But to that point is all it takes is one person. That Adderall is going to look 100% legitimate, and somebody's going to offer it with a degree of trust between the two.
Right.
And they would think that this is how they're going to ace their exam, and it's so tragic. It's just so tragic. This is why MAPDA, Mothers Against Prescription Drug Abuse, came up with this Greatest Gift as a Conversation campaign. And it was born out of my conversation actually with a family member who was sending her eldest daughter off to college. And I said, well, have you had the talk yet about drugs and illicit drugs? She said, I don't need to. My kid's a good kid. And I thought, well, that's stigmatizing, first of all, but it's also unrealistic, and you should have that conversation with your kid.
Oh, yeah.
Whether she never touches them, but she might be there with a roommate who does, or in any event. So back to the question about my podcast. Yes, it's what we're talking about forever and ever, but it sure beats talking about politics in today's day and age.
So where are we today with
we're at
all
Skip's
of the
Little Bar,
opioid?
Randy.
Sorry, I was reading my notes.
Okay. Dial it in, pal.
Where are we at Skip's Little Bar?
Where are we today with everything that MAPDA is doing? Are we making any headway with people who matter?
I believe so. And I'll tell you this, Monday. What was that, 2 days ago? Yesterday? Whenever.
We don't talk about that.
Okay, good. I'm almost retired, so it doesn't matter. It's one day. It's hot and sunny.
Wow.
Hey, I have a job for you.
You don't even have your own job.
That's true.
But when I mentioned to this, she's a Harvard, PhD researcher, professor, been in this business forever, has worked in multiple White Houses. And I said, thank you for coming on our little show. And she's, little show? You're making a difference. And I was so complimented that she would notice and she would say that we're talking about these policies. And also, MAPDA, look, we made a decision as a board and as a group of working women that we don't want a big bureaucracy. We don't want to pay for copiers and rent and all of these things. We want a team of women who can use their talents where they're best suited. Most of our board are Washington, D.C. based either lobbyists or Well, obvious. Let me think. But they have access. Look, we have access. We're C3, so we don't violate that C3 status. But we talk to policymakers all the time, and we advise them on what we think is right, because many of them haven't been exposed to this or been around it. So we do that a lot. And we endorse legislation. Again, we don't lobby, but we get involved in that regard. We work seamlessly with a number of nonprofits, and none of it. We don't try to boil the ocean. That's what's sad about this. Is we know, like, we lose over 100. It depends on what statistic you look at. 150,000 a year now to overdose deaths. No one nonprofit's going to make a difference, but raising all of our voices and talking about whether it's reducing the stigma of being in recovery or going into treatment, access to drugs like naloxone, or how do you have the conversation about non-opioid alternatives or options. If you have some aches and pains, can you do something over the counter instead of, an opioid? So we get involved in all sorts of discussions.
Talking about access to it has also brought something else into the conversation, which is social media.
Yeah.
So much of these drugs are being accessed through things like Snapchat and such. Are you tying into nonprofits on that side to partner up?
And legislation. Actually, I had a Congressman Buddy Carter from Georgia on, who's a pharmacist, on the podcast Stage of Speaking a few months ago. And then we have Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who Patrick will know, she's a left Democrat, a friend of mine, but she's the co-author of the bill. So she will be on shortly to talk about the social media component. And then we've had on former DEA, various levels of leaders in the DEA talking about social media and the threat that it poses. And my recent guest, again from Harvard, talking about the loneliness that social media can create and the distorted reality, right? I'm fat, I'm lonely, I'm ugly, I'm whatever social media creates in people. I'm being bullied, or gaming, right? So you've got kids who are in their headsets all day with no human interaction. But all these threats that can play into it. But social media, the bad guys are definitely targeting our children via social media.
Yeah, true.
Now, I hate Snapchat. I don't have it, but the kids do. And, that's how they communicate.
Yeah.
But I hate it.
Yeah, I'm off of
Yeah.
I don't, one day I hope to maybe be off social media. But,
well, the podcast is called Sagely Speaking, and it's available on all of those great podcast platforms, just the same place where you find Big Conversations Little Bar. So,
you said great podcast platforms.
All podcast platforms.
Just want to make sure ours would be on there too.
Ours, it's not for great podcasts. It's just the platforms is great. So.
You guys have a huge listenership. You're kind of our role models.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
But,
congratulations.
One other thing, I really admire what you guys are doing because you are very focused on an issue. But one of the things I really enjoy about this podcast is we are not focused on anything. It's just a nice conversation.
I'm not spilling your beer, Patrick. You've done a good job.
We invite people that we think are interesting and fun to talk to. And 9 times out of 10, they are.
Well, they have to be.
Okay, wait,
There'd literally be no podcast.
I don't know if I'm hearing the music about to can me, but
no.
Okay, tell me who wasn't interesting.
Well, we can't dish.
Come on, I want to know.
Can't dish.
Come on.
I can.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't work in this area. Nah, we've had it.
No.
We've had
was
some really good ones, and we've had.
The thing,
had some really good
the
ones.
podcast, and I'm sure that you, again, you're very, issue and focused. For us, the conversation is a little different. But you come away from a podcast and you think, wow, that went really well.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you come off of one and you're just like,
God, that was work.
That was a lot of work, and that
Yeah.
could have gone better. And this is a lot of work for a cheeseburger at Skips.
But it's a really good cheeseburger.
It's the best $11 cheeseburger.
Still $11?
I think it's $11.
No,
Inflation's
I did
been
have-
tough, Mary. Inflation's been tough.
I know.
It was $9 when we started the show.
It was $7 when Skip opened, and it was for sure the best $7 cheeseburger in town.
No, but I did have one of those podcasts. It's like, okay, I'm looking at my watch. This has been 12 minutes, and I'm going to try to get to 20. It's okay. So I'm learning.
So podcasting is something you're doing now, but you've been doing consulting.
Mm-hmm.
You look back on 14 years in Congress. That's a good run.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, did you realize I do miss it or I don't miss it?
Patrick, that's such a great question because my friends ask me that all the time, and I actually don't know the answer. So I guess it's all over the place.
Yeah.
I miss, of course, I miss the sense of community in the desert here and being a part of so many wonderful things. But I will tell you this, and I'm blessed that I have an amazing husband now. So often I have to talk about Sonny, but when Sonny and I moved out here to the desert, it wasn't my forever plan. It wasn't his forever plan. And so to have a new chapter and a new opportunity to try something new and a different life. I've always wanted to live in the Colorado Rockies, so we're giving that a go. It's a little hard. You know, I've mastered the snowblower. Which is comical in itself because it has knocked me over on many occasions. But in any event, so it's never going to be forever. But and I'll be honest again, but I'm always honest. You know, the ready friends you have when you're in office and the numbers of friends. And when you're no longer in office, those who fall by the wayside, or it's kind of sad.
Well, you kind of discover quickly who was in it for the ride through politics and who wasn't.
You do. And I think if I were coaching a new member of Congress or politician, again, back to that thing about Sonny, you're on the top, but you'll be on the bottom, and it's a up and down. When you're in office, to always keep that close and to know who your truest and best friends are. But the other thing, look, I'm proud of what we did. I'm proud of so much. The National Monument we did here. I was up in Idlewild yesterday. We had built a heliport there for helicopters to attack, fires. A lot that we had done. I'm very, very proud of all that stuff. It was an honor to do it. But I'm really glad I'm not doing that forever.
Congress is... My dad was a local politician. And the congressman at the time he was retiring, he really wanted my dad to run for it. But Dad decided not to. And he said, one of the biggest issues is, and this was before, 24-hour cable and social media, but you're always running. Yep. A 2-year term is so short that you never stop campaigning. It's got to be really maddening and hard to get work done.
Especially in a district like this, and whether it's Congressman Calvert's district or, Raul Ruiz's district, they're big districts. And I remember when I would go out to Blythe, I would feel so bad because just salt of the earth people, and I loved being out there, but I could only get out there twice a year because it's a big commitment out of a day. And so it's hard, I think, sometimes to do that. You actually begin to feel a little bit bad that you're not out as often as you'd like to be. Oh my gosh, I remember the Desert Sun used to demand my calendar to know where I was at all times. And it's like, I'm not giving you my calendar. They were accusing me of, being in Florida when I was married to Mr. Wrong. It's like I'm not in Florida, but I'm not giving you my calendar.
Well, next time you drive through Arizona, go to their offices and drop off your calendar to them.
Oh, yeah. I'll stop by the Gannett building in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Look, the Desert Sun, you asked me about changes. The Desert Sun has changed so much. They used to be such a part of the community and built it so much. And great, Joan Bierman was huge in the film festival. Of course, Bruce Fessier, Bob Dickey,
Michelle Kranz.
Yeah, and things changed, and the nature, look, I can't believe I'm telling you this, but the nature of media has changed. And yesterday when I was in Idlewild, I called the reporter from the Idlewild Town Crier who'd covered me for years. And what I loved the most, and I'm looking at you again, Patrick, was a reporter who was skeptical of me in the beginning, but then gave me a chance and then helped me do my job. And that sort of changed with the Desert Sun over time. I felt like they began to want to take me down because more readers would read that story than anything else. So there was a definite change. But the Desert Sun in the beginning was a huge part, I think, of the positive development here in the desert in the beginning.
Well, when you think about that building, they don't even use the building on geometry anymore.
Really?
But at some point, there were almost 500 people working in that building.
Yeah.
My ex-wife worked for the Desert Sun.
Oh, wait, you had Mrs. Wrong?
Oh, yes.
They were in the same family.
I did.
Cousins.
I'm sure she's a delightful person, but you couldn't prove it by me. But she's in Buffalo now, and I think that's a really good place for her.
Take my wife, please.
Please.
So what's next besides MAPDA? Anything coming up?
Getting you to work as an ambassador doing more. Thank you. No, look, I'm still consulting. I'm still on some boards. I just joined the National Medal of Honor Leadership Center board in South Carolina, which is it's what the country needs so sorely right now. It's sort of based upon principles that like a National Medal of Honor recipient would be known for espousing, leadership, courage, all of these things. And so it's a leadership center to train people about those values. So I just joined that board, advisory committee, stayed off the board. But so, I don't know. I know that I'm incredibly busy. I decided to give up skiing.
Yeah.
By snowshoe. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm just busier than ever.
Good.
Yeah.
You're doing important stuff too.
Well, thank you. It's a joy. It's a labor of love.
Well, thank you for having me as a part of it. This is important for my wife and I too, to be offering any support we can.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it very, very much. You don't have to be a mother to be a part of Mothers Against Prescription Drug Abuse. So.
Well, and again, I'll promote your podcast, Sagely Speaking. I think people should be listening, especially if you've got kids, teenagers in the house. It's a really important conversation that people should be having. We really appreciate you taking some time out of a little vacation here in Palm Springs to come and talk with us.
Well, thank you.
It's great to catch up with you. I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know. And you haven't aged a bit. You haven't.
Would that it were true. But thank you.
It's true. It is so great to see you. I consider you a good friend.
Well, vice versa. We cross paths quite a bit. And the nice part about being a weather person and host of Eye on the Desert, I never had to cover politics. So, and I'm friends with all of my local representatives.
You're bipartisan.
I'm totally 100% bipartisan.
Well, will I bust your groove or embarrass you if I say that I always felt that you supported me? Whether maybe not politically, I don't know, but personally you did. And whether you disagreed with me, that's okay, but I never felt you were out to get me. So thank you for that.
Well, the first time you and I met and spent any time together, it was after a charity golf tournament. It was at Tockwitz Creek.
Oh.
And we were brand new. CBS had just gone on the air. And we were at the dinner after the golf tournament, and it was kind of droning on. And this is a not political statement, but I decided that I love Mary Bono because you came over to our table, and you knew some people at the TV station, and you said, guys, this is really boring.
Oops.
And don't you think maybe we'd be better off if we just go over to the Yard House and get some drinks? And I said, this congressperson has my 100% support.
I took the Secretary of the Interior to Yard House. I took the Secretary of the Interior to El Mirasol.
Oh, yeah.
So
I got to know you, like, more personally than professionally, but and I've always considered you a friend, and I'm glad you're doing well and loving life.
Thank you, and I'm so glad you guys had me on, John. Thank you for making it happen, and I'll give you my bill in a little bit.
Well,
wait for the check.
That's right. Mary, thank you so much for spending some time with us. And our producer, John McMullen, thank you, sir. So instrumental in what we do. My great co-host, Randy Florence.
Thanks for asking me back.
It was a delight to have you today.
I made it through another week.
You've been listening to Big Conversations Little Bar, available on every podcast platform. Please subscribe. That way you don't miss a single episode. I'm Patrick Evans. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Big Conversations Little Bar, recorded on location at Skip Paige's Little Bar in Palm Desert, California, the center of the Coachella Valley Universe. This program is a production of the Mutual Broadcasting System. All episodes are available from BigConversationsLittleBar.com or from most major podcast portals, including Apple, Spotify, and Amazon Music.